All right, so today we're going to kind of take a look at some of Illinois' recent challenges and what we've learned from them and how we're addressing policy in order to hopefully prevent these from happening in the future. This here is one of our recent microsurfacings that went down. It's a fairly good project and we haven't noticed any issues yet. The fun slides are yet to happen. So a little background, Illinois' pavement preservation policy, or their decision trees, are based solely on surface stresses, probably much like many other states. The problem that we're seeing is that might not necessarily be enough in order to fully determine whether some of these roadways are actually good candidates for pavement preservation. Here is just kind of a snapshot of our initial stab at our decision trees for pavement preservation. And you can see over on the left-hand side going down that a lot of those are surface distresses that we are taking a look at. All right, so this was a microsurfacing that was on one of our interstates, actually probably just about 40 miles east of here. This is around the O'Fallon area. This microsurfacing actually performed very well for a long period of time until the pavement below it started to fail the microsurfacing. As you can see there, we are actually in a super elevated curve there, and we've got some shoving that's really starting to happen in that middle lane where a lot of the truck traffic tends to take place. So what happened, we went out to the site. We took some investigatory tours and brought them back to the lab and started to take a look at things. The split tensile strengths were plummeting, and so we ended up taking an initial emergency contract and milling this all out and replacing it in the same night. That was a pretty expensive fix for something that probably could have been solved well before this micro was put down. So during the emergency repairs, one of the questions that was brought up was, well, what's the condition of the concrete? Or, is the concrete below still in good condition, or is it contributing to the condition that we saw? So once the mills had cleaned off the concrete of all the existing HMA, we found that the concrete was well intact and still looking very good. There were no failures in the PCC that would tend to cause this issue. One thing that we did notice was that the underdrains were not frequently being maintained. And then the visual inspection of the cores indicated that we had stripping in our HMA lifts. Upon further review, we've identified that there is one specific aggregate that's been used in our SMAs that is the culprit for a majority of these failures. But we'll go on to the next slides because it just keeps getting better. All right, so this one actually is a little bit of a different scenario, but we placed an HMA thin lay on one of our expressways or freeways. It's not an interstate, but it's got very controlled access, much like an interstate does. And this project, actually, we were attempting to play around with some different tack coats and tack coat rates and different products in that scenario. What was not necessarily conveyed to the construction folks was that you can't let it rain for 30 days before you decide to try and put a roof over the house. So we got a lot of blisters in this HMA thin lay, and we have basically probably started to accelerate some deterioration in that HMA below. So something that needs to be kind of considered. Again, we took cores to kind of investigate things. This is so on the left, we got the bottom. Basically, they took the core and they split it in half. We've got the bottom of the thin lay, which is a 9.5 millimeter thin lay at 3/4 of an inch thick. And then on the right, we've got the top of the old surface. As you can see, that old surface is stripped out pretty bad. So we've kind of accelerated some things here, and it's just us not being patient and trying to get the project done as quickly as possible. All right, so This project, this particular interstate has kind of been a thorn in my side for several years now, but we originally had a couple microsurfacings on it. The microsurfacings have subsequently worn off. So the district wanted to do something different, and we went with an ultra-thin bonded. They milled the surface. Construction noticed during the project that traffic was causing rocks to fly up from the milled surface. That should have been clue number one. Number two, they had done some cores the previous year to kind of scope out ad lanes, but nobody had taken a look at the cores to see what was going on with the HMA prior to this project being designed, let, and awarded. So there was clue number two. Basically, this is how the distress initially started. It looks very much like fatigue cracking, and it probably is what we would consider fatigue cracking. The white residue coming up we thought was actually from salt, but it's not. It is coming up from below the pavement, and the water that's coming up from the pavement as well. This is a more advanced distress. So these potholes actually went down about 4 inches. And these are right in the wheel path of the driving lane on this particular interstate. It was a very dangerous situation, and our operations crews were quickly to address it and make sure that we have a safe road. So when they were doing their repairs, they were able to take the HMA at the bottom of that pothole or that repair, pull it out with their hand, and mold it like Play-Doh. So again, we've had issues with under-drain maintenance. The ultra-thin bonded wearing course appeared to be working and probably saved the pavement for longer than it actually would have been allowed had some other treatment been there. What we ended up doing was we did a very extensive coring program. We took 24 cores over the, at least 24 cores over the 12-mile corridor, and started taking a look at split tensile strengths for all the layers that are out there. It turns out we still had some HMA from 1990 down at the bottom, on top of the 1970 concrete that they decided to overlay. The underdrains had not been maintained. Again, this seems to be a reoccurring theme. But we basically turned those lower lifts of HMA into Play-Doh. And that's where you start to see some of the shoving and debonding that we've got. So a couple key takeaways that we've got from all of our recent events in Illinois. Under drain maintenance needs to become a bigger priority. And I know this is stressed a lot in a lot of the national training and events that happen with pavement preservation, but it's something that IDOT is not doing a very good job of portraying to their district staff. So that's something that we are going to work on along with our Illinois division and making sure that we work on this maintenance problem. More attention needs to be paid to the construction history and details. There's a lot of good information out there that needs to take place even when you're doing a pavement preservation project. Just simply looking at the surface and deciding it's good to slap down some microsurfacing or an ultra-thin bonded or something that's going to definitely seal that the top of the pavement surface. There needs to be more attention and details put into it. And then IDOT is actually going to put in a coring policy. So if we're going to put down a microsurfacing on a road that's high volume and has existing HMA that's been out there for a while, we are going to require cores to test for stripping problems prior to approving that project for letting an award. So that hopefully will address some of our issues and help kind of give pavement preservation a better outlook in Illinois. Usually I like to throw in some tidbits here and there, so I thought this fit well with what IDOT's learning. So learn from yesterday, live for today, and hope for tomorrow. The important thing is not to stop questioning. That comes from Albert Einstein. So while I was sitting there listening to the local agency presentations, Eric kind of sparked me to throw in a couple more slides. So we were talking about communication with some of the public. This is a webmail that we got from a very concerned citizen about a chip seal that we placed on one of the state routes. If you can skip to the bottom sentence, I was very hopeful that my boss didn't fire me. Part of you kind of is a little hurt by these, but at the same time, part of you takes a little pride in the fact that at least people are noticing what you're doing. I think the ironic thing is this was actually a Cape seal. So he sent this email right before it was about to get a microsurfacing, and he probably wouldn't have known the difference had he just waited a week. This is another one that we got from one of our southern districts. And this kind of highlights what we've been talking about in some of the recent meetings, is that communication with the public is essential, and I think this is where the states are kind of lacking. More guidance and help from both industry as well as federal highways on a better communication plan with the public would be extremely beneficial to all the state agencies. I know our communications department took it upon themselves without asking the pavement people what we should be communicating to the public about pavement preservation, and it's obviously not going anywhere. So that's all I've got for today. You know, we've got a lot of lessons that we've learned over the past couple of years, but I think we are still headed in the right direction, and we're still pushing forward with all of our various pavement preservation techniques in Illinois. So thank you.
The preceding was produced by the National Center for Pavement Preservation. More information can be found on the web at pavementpreservation.org. Additional support provided by Michigan State University.